Hello everybody. This is a third video in a series of 3 on the 3 stages of codependent recovery. You know who I am, Jerry Wise, a life and relationship coach. You've joined a membership to get exclusive content. These are things I haven't shared in depth in any of my videos, and I wanted to share them with you. This is entitled Stage 3 Recovery, and it is getting the chaos out of me. We've talked about stage 1, stage 2, and now we're talking about stage 3. I want to share with you what stage 3 recovery may look like. Stage 3 recovery is the application of family systems based understanding of persons and problems to the disease of codependency. And that's what stage 3 is. Oftentimes that is left out of early stages of recovery. We also may not be ready for that. It really requires some other recovery first before you can start thinking about family systems, self-differentiation, because we're really coming out of denial. We have a lot of chronic anxiety, and so we're really struggling, and we're very pretzeled into all these relationships that we have knitted together using our codependency. The goals of stage 3 recovery are to become aware of and take responsibility for my part in the relationship system. Now, why would that not be such a great goal in stage 1 or maybe even stage 2? Because as a codependent, we overown and overtake responsibility. Well, once you realize, wait a minute, that's not healthy to do that. It's not even accurate or true. I'm not the one doing it. In this stage, we start to more maturely understand how our functioning is our responsibility, and we take responsibility for our side of the relationship, not theirs, but ours. This is a stage in which to apply what we have learned about systems theory to recovery, to experience intense emotional situations with calmness and self-differentiation. And that's what stage 3 is about. Also, to learn to detach and stay detached from the emotionality of others. And I think that's really huge for codependency. And if you can do that, you truly begin to grow up and be mature and a healthy, mature adult. So what does stage 3 look like? And this is based on the work that I have done. And it's getting the chaos out of me. Stage 1, stage 2, there's chaos everywhere. Chaos in me, coming out of me, all with all the relationships all around. And so now it's the stage of, I don't want to just get out of the chaos. I want to get the chaos out of me. That's stage 3. We shift from an individual or self model to a systems model. And I think of it as an example of, here's a stick person here, which would be me. We have that individualistic model, and then we widen our lens to see all the relationships around us and our family of origin and our marriage, and we begin to see it in this way. Before this stage, we probably weren't ready to see that. We just needed to focus on self. Just like an alcoholic who goes to 90 meetings in 90 days, they really have to focus on one goal: staying in recovery and staying abstinent. That's what they need to do. Then even Bill W. in AA literature talks about there's even a stage beyond doing that, and that's that emotional sobriety. And I think that's what I'm talking about in stage 2 and stage 3, is emotional sobriety. The this stage is also includes seeing what is going on versus what is said and done, learning to become an observer of the process versus a reactor. In stages 1 and 2, we're very reactive. Now we're going to learn to be observers and not just reactors, and not focusing on what's said and done, but focus more on what's going on. What's the process that's going on? I remember, again, my first question that was asked me, that was a systems question, came to my advisor at seminary, asking, so I'm just depressed, I'm pastoring a church, I'm just so depressed, I don't know what to do. And then he said, and guess who I was focusing on? Me. How do I get over this depression? And he widened it out and said, well, what role does your depression play in your church? So what role does my depression play in my church? That's a crazy question. But I absolutely knew he was right. I didn't understand it fully, but I knew he was right. And he was a Murray Bowen family systems expert and professor. And whenever I heard his lectures, I just lived for his lectures, because he described things in such really helpful ways that really kind of laid out the map and laid out everything on the table. And I wasn't hearing that from other people. And so that was my first introduction to going from here to having this perspective. And so what role does my depression play in my family or in my church or in any group? That's a systems question. And then I stop being the reactor and start being the observer. We also begin in stage 3 to identify existing emotional triangles. And we start to see triangles in lots of places. And triangles cause a lot of stress, a lot of discomfort, a lot of upset feelings, a lot of stuckness. And we can have primary triangles from our family of origin to secondary triangles that collide as we are adults. We, in this stage, begin to learn to resist emotional cutoffs, because we see we're living that pendulum life of fusion, cutoff, fusion, cutoff. And so early in recovery, we do a lot more of this, the opposite of what codependency is. The fusion and compliance and peacemaking and over-functioning, that's all over here. And then we get resentful and kind of angry and upset and come back over here. Stage 3 is where we start to learn about here, which is not cutting off, being yourself, having a self, making I statements, keeping your calmness under control, and those kinds of things, which are very helpful skills, but they do take some learning and practice. We then learn to become and remain more emotionally detached in this stage 3. We learn a healthy balance between togetherness and separateness, because all relationships at all times are functioning with the balance of those two forces, togetherness and separateness. How you balance those makes a big difference in your own sense of self and also in the relationship. And also, one author, I was trying to think who, it was Peter Titleman, I think maybe from his book, it might have been The Therapist's Own Family, which is a very interesting and deep book and very helpful. And he talks about you can either be defining self or having a no self, but you're always only doing either or. You're always doing one or the other. And us as codependents, we do the non-self. That's what we do so much. But whatever we're doing, there's no neutral position in that. You're either doing this or you're doing that. There's no middle ground or standing in place. You're either doing one or the other all of our lives. And so we begin to learn that in this stage 3. And rather than just changing my behavior, I learned to understand to take responsibility for my part in the system. And that I'm doing this and nobody's making me do that but me. And then I begin to come here rather than, well, it's their fault that I was overfunctioning. It was their fault that I'm angry with them and I'm cut off from them now. Well, an adult stays here. And so we learn that in stage 3 recovery. And I'll be talking about books that can help you with that. I also in stage 3 begin to be able to risk more closeness and intimacy with others by accepting and managing my need for distance. In other words, or detachment. That you can't have intimacy without detachment. You can't have true intimacy without some separateness. Because if there's too much fusion, too much enmeshment, intimacy is not going to work. It's only going to keep going in a pendulum way. And so that's something we learn in this stage 3 is codependence. Also, I see the importance of family of origin as a means of getting the family chaos out of me, getting out of the family glue, going home to leave home, and getting the family out of me. That's in a stage 3 work that we do. I had posted something on my Facebook which said, and I forget, it was now I can't remember what it was. It was your childhood is keeping you stuck in your adulthood. It's something like that. I may be paraphrasing, but our childhood keeps us stuck in our adulthood. And if we accept that and understand that, we can begin to get that out of us so that we can truly be ourselves and be an adult. And during this stage, I talk to people rather than talking about them to gain detachment. Stage 2, I'm talking about them to get some detachment. Now I'm actually talking to them to get some attachment. That takes courage. It takes some knowledge. It takes some work to do that. But it's a way to grow up. It's a way that we grow up. During this stage, feelings are understood. And there's a shift from feelings as the focus to the role of feelings. Shift from feelings as the focus to the role of feelings as the focus. So it was like my depression. I'm feeling depressed. Instead of just focusing on the depression, we begin to look at what role those feelings play. Guilt, shame, hurt. Because there's one way you can stay enmeshed and connected with someone, always feel hurt by them. That's one of the best ways to stay connected. Maybe I don't want to stay connected to them. So I'm going to have to deal with this feeling of hurt and see how it functions in the system. There's a shift from recycling to actual change. That's real change, that's irreversible change in stage 3, recovery. Practicing the process of self-differentiation occurs in stage 3. How do I be self-differentiated? Staying connected while being myself. Staying connected while being myself with others. That's a difficult thing to do. It sounds easy, but it's a very difficult and tricky thing to do. And it takes some work to do that. and also balancing togetherness and separateness forces too. And in my other videos, I talk about the tennis net analogy and many other analogies to help us understand that and practice that. We experience fewer symptoms physically, bodily, emotionally, mentally, or in acting out in stage 3, because we're starting to deal with that chronic anxiety we've had from childhood and the systems anxiety we carry with us all the time, and our low self-worth and our low self-esteem and our insecurity, and we're dealing with those things, and we start to feel fewer symptoms. We may get sick less. We may have less bronchitis. We may have lowered allergies. We may be eating less because we're actually dealing with ourselves in the life that we're living in a mature way, and being an adult and staying an adult. We read books during this stage of Jenny Brown's Growing Yourself Up, The Dance of Intimacy by Harriet Lerner, The Dance of Anger. I do like Bradshaw's books also. Murray Bowen, Peter Titleman, Titleman, birth order books, family roles books, Andrea Schera, Schara books, Roberta Gilbert books. So there are a lot of good books out there for this stage of maturity and growing that can help you. I think many of my videos can help you with that as well. During this third stage, we're dealing with our fantasies. We're accepting that we're adults now, and those fantasies are not going to take place. So we have to build a life not based on fantasies. We also, in this stage, deal with our own immaturity. And we see how we've been immature, but not in a self-rejecting way or a self-flagellating way, where we whip ourselves for being immature or whip ourselves for having fantasies or being childish or childlike. This is a stage where we accept ourselves as human beings who have gone through things, and now we would like to grow up. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope these 3 stages, and today was the 3rd stage, of codependent recovery has been a help to think about your own recovery process and where you are. If we can be of help, certainly let us know. Me and my team would like to be of help to you. I hope you will continue to support the work that I am doing, because I'd like to change things as long as I'm here and to make things better for other people. And I appreciate you watching today. I hope you have a great day, and be wise.